I definitely experienced things and did things very differently than I did many years later. It's like with
Mhm.
any kind of job. Not everybody learns from their experiences. I did.
For over 40 years, today's guest has lived the dream so many people hold, working as a full-time actor alongside Academy Award winners, building a career in one of the toughest industries in the world. But Aaron Marcus would be the first to tell you it hasn't been about the lights and cameras or big opportunities. It's been about learning to handle rejection, building confidence when others told him to give up, and discovering what it really takes to follow your dreams, even when the world says, don't waste your time. Alongside of his acting career, Aaron has shared his wisdom in over 800 workshops, 150 interviews, and helping others navigate not only the entertainment industry, but life itself. His lessons on resilience, mindset, self belief reach far beyond acting. They are about how to keep going when the going gets tough. Aaron, welcome to Positive Vibes.
Oh, it's so nice to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Aaron, can you take us back to the beginning? What drew you to acting and what kept you pursuing it when others told you not to?
Well, I have an unusual background. Most actors that I know they had been acting all their lives as kids. It's something they've always dreamed about doing. People told them they should be acting because they just are able to express emotions or they're very funny and they can ad lib. And I had no interest in acting.
Mm.
I like watching TV. I like watching movies, but never thought of that. So the shorter version is I stopped going to college
Mm.
because my brother asked me if I wanted to perform music with him full time because we had been
Okay.
playing part time and we were songwriters and things were going great. We did this for 7 years. And then my brother decided that he didn't like traveling and didn't like performing on stage, which is
Oh,
not really good
no.
for musicians. So he gave me a year's notice to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And I had some general ideas. I knew I wanted to do something with people. I knew I wanted to do something that would be helping others. And so I started volunteering in an orthopedic hospital with the physical ther in the physical therapy department, and I would shadow orthopedists. And I thought, after about 300 hours of doing this, I thought, I want to be a physical therapist. It just
Okay.
seemed like it hit all the marks that I wanted. I love learning about the body, how it works, being able to heal people and make people feel better.
Mm.
So I went back to school and I started taking all the classes that I avoided my entire life, all the sciences, because they scared me.
Yeah.
And so while I was in school, I needed a job. And I don't know, it's funny. I don't really believe in coincidences because I've had a lot of really just unusual things happen to me throughout my life.
Mm.
I happened to meet an actor and he did mostly TV commercials. And I thought, well, that
Hmm.
sounds interesting. I said, so what's that all about? And he explained it to me. And I thought, this is a perfect part-time job. I mean, I'll
Mm.
get a chance to make some money when I book jobs. The hours are really flexible. If I
Yeah.
have to go to an audition or do a job, okay, so I'll talk to my professors, take a day off or a few hours off. And I start doing that part-time, not just commercial modeling, but I was doing other things. I'm sorry, not just TV commercials, but I was doing commercial modeling and other things
Hmm.
part-time for 2 years. And this isn't, on your particular podcast, I'll share this. It's not something I normally do. But honestly, I finished all my prerequisites. I'm getting ready to apply to physical therapy school. I had just gotten engaged. And I told my fiance, who's still my wife at the time, I know you're planning on marrying a guy who's going to be hopefully in physical therapy school.
Hmm.
But I started having dreams. And in my dreams, I was seeing myself as a very successful physical therapist. I was already making contacts with orthopedic surgeons, but I would be bored. And
Yeah.
I felt this excitement with acting that I just
Mm.
wasn't feeling in the science world. And so I told my fiance Nancy, I said, you know what? I want to try acting for a year. I full time. Just want to give it a shot. I want to see if I could stomach the unknowns, which I thought I could because I was a
Yeah.
musician for 7 years. But could I get work? And would I enjoy it on a full-time basis, which is very different than doing it part-time, which is what most actors do.
Mm.
And that 1 year is now turned into 40 plus years. So that's the story of how I got started. I got started much later in life than most people.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing. Sometimes people say, oh, I wish I had started. I don't think I was ready then. I was
Yeah.
ready at the time that I was ready. And it's been an incredible, incredible journey for me.
Yeah, it sounds like an incredible journey. So you went from a musician to study physiotherapy or physical therapy for yourself, and then you moved into acting. So what did those early days teach you about resilience and holding on to your dreams?
So that's a good question.
Mm.
Well, at the very beginning of my career, I definitely experienced things and did things very differently than I did many years later. It's like with
Mm.
any kind of job. Not everybody learns from their experiences. I did.
Yeah.
And one thing that people don't really see, it's like, you see famous actors on TV or in the movies, and you think, oh, it's just incredible. Let me just tell you, especially at the very beginning of a career, it's hard,
Mm.
especially if you don't really know what you're doing. And, I had to learn how to put together the right photos. They're called headshots. I had no idea. And I went to see a headshot photographer and I said, what do I do? And he said, well, I'll just make a lot of faces. So, okay, I can do that. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was a horrible session. We salvaged one photo from the session.
Ah.
And you also have to learn that, and once again, this took me years, and this was a really valuable lesson that I think is pretty universal. You can't take anything personally in the
Mm.
industry.
Yeah.
We are essentially, and I know a lot of people don't view it this way, this is how I see it, we're salespeople. That's what we
Mm.
do. Some people might sell computers, some people might sell insurance, some people might sell real estate. We're selling ourselves. You go in, you do an audition, and we're trying to get a role. And you have to understand when you don't get the booking, it's not a personal statement about who you
Mm.
are as a human being. That took many, many years and therapy to get to a place where I got it. These are business decisions. Maybe you're too tall, maybe you're too short, maybe your body's
Mm.
in too good a shape, maybe you're not in good enough shape, maybe you're not attractive enough, maybe you're too attractive. And if you are a younger person and you are auditioning to be the son or daughter of this family, well, if you don't really look like the parents who might be starring in this project, you're not getting the job. You might
Yeah.
have given the greatest audition out of anybody there, but for whatever reason, you were not the right choice. And I always like to share real life experiences when I'm making statements like that. There was a TV show, I don't know if anybody remembers it. It was the very first streaming show in the world. It was on Netflix and it was called House of Cards.
Yeah.
It was it was a groundbreaking show. The first four seasons were phenomenal. Last two got a little weird, but I auditioned for that show over a 2 year period
Oh, wow.
for it 14 times. Never booked it. Sometimes they would call me back, meaning they liked the initial read and they would have me read
Mm.
again. Didn't book it. Sometimes they would put me on hold, meaning you were like one of, a couple of people they're seriously considering for the role. Didn't book it.
Mm.
15th audition, I booked a recurring role. So you have to understand there
Yeah.
are so many factors that go into booking it and not booking it. And if you're a good person, you're still a good person, whether you book jobs or not. And you shouldn't be kicking yourself or beating yourself up, thinking
Mm,
you're horrible because you didn't get it. So just understand you have full control over your audition and
mm,
you can do anything that you want in there. You have no control over who gets booked for the job.
mm.
So those were some of the valuable lessons that I learned.
Yeah, yeah, very valuable indeed. And it sounds so, tougher than what I imagined in regards to having to show up 14 times over a 2-year period and still getting nowhere. And then finally on the 15th time, you get something that's booked. So there must have been moments in your career where you almost gave up. Was there a moment and what helped you push through it?
Well, this might not be what people want to hear, but one of the things, and of course, I think for most actors, you hit certain time periods where either auditions are really slow, you're not booking jobs, nasty things happen on sets, and you just think, what am I doing? I don't like this anymore. There's too much pressure. I'm not having success. I've got a family. I need to make an income. One of the helpful things for me during that time period was the fact I didn't have any other skills. So,
Mm,
so it's not like I could say, well, maybe I'll just go back and do physical therapy at that point. I didn't have a degree. I never went to physical therapy school.
mm,
So, and I didn't have a college degree either. I was close, but because I dropped out for the second time, I never had a degree. So I really didn't have anything else to fall back on. So what I would do during those tough time periods, I would sit down and try to think, what can I do differently? Or maybe I should be doing the exact same thing. I'm not sure, but I got to figure something out because something's not working right now. And
mm,
I also found that there were times, and I'm not talking about for stretches, but maybe, half a day or take a day and just leave. Just get out of my headspace, go out for hikes, just do something to clear my mind
mm,
because it's easy to kind of get into this pattern of just doing things over and over and over and over and over again and not having any success, thinking that if you just work harder, it's going to get
mm.
better. And I found that sometimes I just had to step back and just kind of walk, like I was saying, walk away a little bit and just start thinking of other ways of doing things. And
Yeah.
my my brain doesn't work the way that in some ways I kind of wish it would. I know people who plan things out in their life.
Mm,
They expect, well, I need to have these many auditions. I need to have a certain ratio of bookings to auditions. I expect to be doing, this many things at some point. I just never worked that way. I always went by feel.
mm,
So even like when it would come to doing workshops. I never thought I would wind up doing workshops in my
mm,
life. And I always made, I guess I made my brain available and my senses available. And when things came up, if it felt right to me, I would do it. And I
mm,
didn't have a plan. So, like for instance, with workshops, I once got a phone call from an agent that I worked with, and she was about 3.5 hours away from me. And she said, Aaron, look, I know you do a lot of commercial modeling. And just so people know what that means, because a lot of times, as soon as you say the word modeling, people think of fashion.
yeah.
Commercial modeling has nothing to do with fashion modeling. Fashion models these are men and women who mostly women, and they get much higher notice than fashion that men do. But basically, they promote high-end designer clothes, and they walk
Hmm.
runways, and they will. there are certain statistics, and unfortunately, I can't do metric. I can only tell you feet and inches. So women, I'll just tell you. So women are going to
Yeah.
be supermodels between 5'9" and 6 feet tall. Measurements are going to be 34, 24, 34. Men are going to be 6 feet to 6 feet 2, wear a size 40 jacket, and you have to have a very specific look.
Mm.
Commercial models, some of them are absolutely beautiful. They might be doing ads for um, health related things or exercise magazines. Men, maybe, really handsome guys doing things for vacation on cruises or Rolex watches. Or it could just be like a regular looking guy like me, your next door neighbor, who is portraying the doctor and the lawyer or the teacher, or it could be a student, or it
Mm.
could be somebody who is sick. And so I was getting a lot of commercial modeling work. And so the agent called me and said, "Look, I know, you're an actor, but you get a lot of commercial modeling work. Would you mind coming down to my agency and just talking to my actors for an hour and just
Yeah.
tell them about commercial modeling, any tips, any techniques that you use?" And I said, "Sure." And there was no money involved. Never even thought of that.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, all right, so I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So I wrote out stuff and went down there, drove down there and spent the day going down, coming back. And it was fun. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And I found that I loved sharing information with
Yeah.
other people. And that slowly turned into a whole side hustle for me. We were talking earlier.
Mm.
I've been to 3 continents doing workshops. I've done over 800, been to
Yeah.
Australia a few times, and absolutely love being in Sydney. Certainly, I'd like to explore next time I come. But, I just open myself up to other
Mm.
things. And like I said, if it feels right, then I'll go after it. And it has
Mm.
really allowed me to do so many things that I love doing.
Mm. So, just touching on something that you said before, acting is filled with rejection. How did you learn not to take it personally? So, you mentioned that you did therapy and it took you a long time, but how did you learn not to take it personally?
Well, actually, therapy was great.
Mm.
That was really very helpful. And if you have a great therapist, and I haven't been in therapy in decades, but I was for probably 10 years. And and what was really interesting, it wasn't even so much, it got to a point where once I resolved things that just personal things for me, then it was really more life experiences that
Mm.
I would bring in, and we would talk about rejection. We would talk about
Yeah.
not getting work, and one of the changes that I made from that, because I started to understand the business more. I think that's
Yeah.
really was a key factor. I understood that there were lots of reasons why people booked. As a matter of fact, I'll share the story. There were some, I was not there, but I have a friend who was in this room and they were casting for a feature film. And it was a callback, meaning, once again, they loved the initial audition. They brought 3 or 4 people back. And now, instead of just reading with the casting director, now the director is there, producers, writers might be there.
Hmm.
And a woman came in during the callback and she did her audition. And she walks out, and everybody turns to the director and they said, "Wow, she was great." And the director said, "She was wonderful." And they said, "So you're going to offer her the contract, right?" And he goes, "No, I can't do that."
Oh.
What? What? You thought she was great? Oh, she was wonderful. You know what? She was wearing this perfume. It reminded me of my ex-wife. I just can't deal with
Oh.
it. It can be
Okay.
that crazy. And so once you really have a better understanding of the industry, then
Mm.
you can really see that it's not a rejection. It's just you weren't the perfect person for the role. That's all.
Mm.
And what I also started shifting with once I started understanding that, and once again, this might sound a little bit unusual, and I'm not telling everybody to do it, but I do a lot of private mentoring online, and I do talk about this with people. And that is when I go into an audition, I never, and once again, this took many, many years to figure out. I never try to book the job.
Mm.
And people say, well, what do you mean you don't try to book? Why are you doing it if you're not trying to book the job? My number one goal for every audition is to enjoy myself.
Mm.
Period. That's it. That's my goal. Because once again, I understand the chances of me booking it. And I'm not saying that I'm horrible. I mean, apparently, look, I booked almost 1,300 jobs. So I know I do some things okay. But I know that the chances of booking a job are very slim.
Mm.
Just there are so many people who have a headshot and a resume submitted, and then it gets narrowed down to only a certain amount of people are actually offered the audition. And once again, these numbers will vary, but it's not
Mm.
unusual to maybe have 30, or so 30 people actually audition for the role for
Yeah.
one person. So the chances of booking it are very slim.
Yeah.
And what I found was when I stopped trying to get the job and just have a good time, it's a Monday afternoon. I
Mm.
get a chance to act for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That is fun. And I don't do it for this reason, but I know that when you walk in, if an actor walks in and they're trying to get it and they are feeling desperate and they're thinking, oh, I want to
Mm.
do this job. It could be a life-changing thing, or I could work with a famous actor, or it could be very lucrative. The casting director picks up on
Yeah.
that desperation and that
Mm.
neediness, and nobody wants to deal with that. It's like you go out on a blind date with somebody and you're sitting down and you're having dinner, and the first thing somebody says to you, you know, I really want to get married. You want to get married? I think we
Yeah.
should get married. And, that's not the approach that you want
Yeah.
to have. And so when you go in there and you're just being joyful, it's
Mm.
fun, people pick up. And those are the kinds of people that are respected more because they're
Mm.
not feeling desperate. And those are the people you want to hang out on the set with,
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't look so needy. So, those are just some other things that I've learned. And, and actually, my second goal is to try to learn from the experience. Sometimes I
Yeah.
might walk out of an audition, although in today's time period, and I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in the States, not to say it doesn't happen, but I can tell you, I have not been in a casting director's office to audition in front of them since 2020,
Yeah.
ever since the pandemic hit. And so everything is done. I shoot home auditions,
Mm.
but sometimes for callbacks, sometimes they will ask you to come in. But if I do the audition, I'll walk out, or even after I shoot it, even though I can shoot it again if I'm shooting it at home, but you don't want to do it too many times. But I'll start thinking,
Mm.
okay, did I do what I wanted to do? If they
Yeah.
gave me notes, did I make those changes? And if not, maybe I could do something different next
Mm.
time around. So yeah, those are really important life lessons. And the thing that also I thought this was so interesting. There is a company, and it's an architectural company, and it's a long story. Short version is the owner was being interviewed by this big architectural magazine.
Yeah.
And he was saying how he takes horrible photos. He said, every photo I take looks terrible. So he went to an agent and said, hey, is there anybody that can help me look good in a photo? And they recommended me, worked with the guy. He did a great job. Photos look great. And then he hired me to come in and talk to his architects and
Yeah.
salespeople. And these are the exact same things that I
Mm.
was sharing with them. If you are doing a pitch to try to get this job for your company,
Mm.
don't try to get it.
Yeah.
Don't try to get it. Enjoy it, share information with them of how you can help them.
Mm.
But don't go in there trying to get the job.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, it's a great advice to change that mindset to take the pressure off you so you can be what I would say authentic but being trying to act for the job if you know what I mean. So it's
And
really
and
ease you into it, take the pressure off you so you don't look desperate.
and I was just going to say, you made such an important point there. it is a phenomenal way of reducing some of the tension
Yeah.
because at the beginning, and full disclosure, there are times I still feel nervous, even though I've been doing this a long time.
Mm,
There are certain actors that I might feel nervous with.
yeah, I could imagine.
And yeah, for a whole variety
Mm,
of reasons. Or if it's an audition, working with somebody. And I used to get very nervous sometimes. And there are some physical
mm,
exercises that I would do before my audition. And the mental exercises. I'm not trying to get the job. And by the
mm.
way, I'm not going to get the job anyway, so why should I be scared?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that is really, really helpful. And just if it's okay, if I continue, there was one other thing that you had mentioned that I just want to touch
Yeah.
on. You were just talking about learning experiences. Look, when I first started, and when I say first started, I mean this went on for years. It took me a while because I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. And I found myself, like a lot of other actors, in the audition room feeling very competitive with other
Mm,
people.
yeah.
And, I would walk in, I'd see somebody, and I think, oh, I saw that guy in a movie. That guy was really good. Or I saw that guy on a
Mm,
TV show. It's like, what am I doing? And all of a sudden, my head is flying in a million different directions. And something that I really, really love sharing with others is that we have no competition in this world.
mm,
We might be reading for the same role. We might have a very similar look. Like when I used to go to, they're called go-sees, where you go and you're seen. That's the audition for models. I would go to these go-sees in New York all the time, and they're looking for a Caucasian
mm,
doctor.
yeah.
And I'd walk in to the photographer's studio or the casting office. I'd say 150 people. They all look like white doctors to me,
Mm,
and they all kind of, a lot of them look very similar to me. And I'm looking around, I'm going, that guy's probably going to get it. He looks perfect. And what I learned is that, yeah, there are people who might have had better experiences. They might have had more bookings. They might
yeah.
look similar to you. But the interesting thing is, we all bring something different to the table.
Mm,
All have had different life experiences. So even if, when you're doing an audition, yeah, it might be a similar read, but you're
yeah.
going to bring something that nobody else in this world has. So
Mm,
anyhow, that's just it's something that I find it's so important. And
yeah.
please, for everybody out there, don't compete with anybody else because you
Mm,
don't have any competition. And once again, it takes you out of the space of trying to give a good performance because your
mm.
brain is going elsewhere.
Yeah, so just further going into that, so working with Academy Award winning actors must have been incredible for you. What did you learn from those experiences that applies to everyday life?
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned, um, sometimes you'll be surprised.
Mm,
I was so fortunate to get a chance to work with Dame Judy Dench,
mm,
and she worked so incredibly hard. I mean, sometimes you think, oh, you reach a certain level, you can kind of coast a
mm,
little bit. And it was a it was a really tough scene for her. I was the priest. She were doing a confessional scene, and it was really draining for her.
mm,
And the director was saying, do you need a break? No, no, no. Everything's fine. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And she just went on and on. And afterwards, and I still, it was just so unbelievable. She walks over to me and she said, Aaron, thank you so much. You were wonderful. And I thought, this is Judy Dench. I can't
yeah,
believe this. And purposely, I did not want to see her or talk to her before the scene.
yeah,
Partially because I thought I'd be really nervous.
hmm,
Two, also, I was a priest.
mm,
And it wasn't somebody that I knew. It wasn't somebody from my church. She just happened to come in. So I didn't want to really know anything about her.
Mm.
I wanted it to be more of a surprise. And then, then it's funny, sometimes, it can also be very, very different. There's a woman named Ellen Burstyn, just a phenomenal Academy Award winning actor who was in House of Cards. And for her, because I was her caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
I felt that, and I don't know this woman. I mean, I know she's a great actor, but I don't know anything about her. So I made sure that I spent time with her
Mm-hmm.
prior to shooting. We would have meals together. I was asking her a lot of questions about her life. She started off as a model. She went on to just be this phenomenal, and I think she's in her early 90s. And I know as of like a year and a half ago, she was still acting. And it gave me an opportunity to really feel love for her, which I
Yeah.
needed in the scene. And the third Academy Award winning actor, which was also just a great experience with Tom Hanks.
Mm.
And I had just this wonderful scene with him in his movie A Man Called Otto.
Mm.
And I tell you, he was probably the most humble, kindest, just down to earth person I've ever worked with. I mean, here is a guy who has been in millions of movies. He's won multiple Academy Awards. And we're on this platform for a train station. It's very cold outside. And he's walking around to all the extras in the scene, thanking them for working so hard. And I'll never forget, we were just sitting in between takes, and for people who don't know, on a movie set, whoever is the director or if it's there's a star, they set the tone for the set. And
Mm.
if you have somebody who's not very nice, that filters down to the first assistant director, to the director, could be the PA's production assistants, the crew. It just
Yeah.
creates a horrible atmosphere.
Mm.
The
And
atmosphere on the set. Oh,
energy meets energy, doesn't it?
it does. That
Mm.
I actually I love that. I love that little expression. I'm going to use that.
Mm.
Um, and it was such a warm and friendly atmosphere, which made me feel like I would do anything to make something, happen.
Yeah.
And so when I was talking with him, I thanked him. I said, I just want to thank you so much for creating just this beautiful atmosphere on the set.
Mm.
And he looked at me like I was crazy.
Oh.
And he goes, Aaron, he goes, we're all on the same team here. He goes, whether it's craft services or the crew or the extras or the principal, we're all on the same team. We're just trying to make something great. And
Mm.
I thought, I said, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And look, I'm not saying that for principles of a project or a star that you have to walk around to people and you have to shake hands and you
Mm.
have to be nice to everybody. I mean, look, everybody has a different approach. It depends on the scene that you're doing. Maybe it's a really tough scene. I remember, like, I've done some scenes where I did not want to be around anybody before the
Mm.
scene. I really felt like I needed to isolate myself and then just jump right into the scene. And so I just want to make it clear, I'm not suggesting that if somebody doesn't walk around and, say nice
Yeah.
things to you and have conversation, it doesn't mean they're not a nice
No.
person. But when it is the right opportunity and it is okay, it
Mm.
makes such a huge difference. You can change
Yep.
somebody's life. I saw the expression in some people's faces when he was walking over to them and thanking them.
Yep.
And it was very powerful. It
Mm.
doesn't take that much effort. And like I'm not him. I can't speak for him, but it felt like he genuinely liked doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
Yeah.
anyhow, there are so many different
Yeah.
experiences that I learned from that I do with other people. I remember, and once again, I'm not trying to make myself out as a saint, but I remember there was a TV show. It was called Gotham, and it was
Hmm.
shot in New York. And I remember it was really cold that day, and I'm walking out of a house. So, I've got, gloves, I've got a long jacket, and they give you these little heaters that you can put in your gloves, and you shake
Hmm.
them up, and it produces
Yeah.
heat. And there were a couple of extras who were standing right on the street, and I could tell they were really cold. So, I walked down. I thought, look, I'm going back inside the house in between each take. I've got gloves on. I said, here, you guys want some, these little hand warmers? And they said, oh, thank you so much. And, just like a little thing like that
Yeah.
can make such a difference, for someone and make their experience so much better. So, for those of you who are out there who either you own your own company or whether you're an actor or do something else, sometimes it's the little things in life
Hmm.
that can really create this energy. And I'm not saying to do it for this reason,
No,
because sometimes when you do those little things, people will do so much for you. And I'm not
mm,
saying to do it for that reason.
no.
But I'm just telling you, I've seen it happen and it can really, really change
Yeah.
things.
It's really about that unconditional kindness. You do it expecting nothing back. You just do it for kindness.
Yeah.
And that ripple effect will uplift that person who will be kind to the next person. So that beautiful unconditional kindness.
And
Yeah.
what's so funny? Man, you got some great, great expressions. This has nothing to do with acting, but it just hit me. The other day, there's a supermarket that I go to, and in order to use a cart, you have to put a quarter in the slot, and then you can pull the chain out. And I was walking up, I was getting ready to give this woman a quarter so she didn't have to return the cart, and then I would go. And so I said, "Oh, here's a quarter." And she said, "Ah, no, no, don't worry about it. Here, just pass it along."
Yeah.
It's exactly what you were saying. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is wonderful. And of
Yeah.
course, that's what I did. I
Mm,
brought my cart out, saw somebody else, and hey, you want a cart? And it just,
mm,
and it's so interesting. Yeah, it's not about karma. And well, if I do something good's going to happen to me.
no.
I just find like when we just put good things out into this
Yeah.
world, little changes can happen.
Absolutely. And Aaron, for someone listening who's struggling with confidence, what daily practices or mind shifts can help them?
That's a great question. Well, I think that being unbelievably prepared
Mm,
and knowledgeable and being an expert in whatever you're trying to do will change things dramatically.
mm,
I knew that for the first maybe year and a half of doing acting full time, I still hadn't studied. I was just going on basic instincts. And I knew that if I really wanted to succeed in the industry, I couldn't continue this way. I needed
mm,
techniques. I needed to be able to do things if I wasn't feeling it in the moment. I knew that I needed to learn how to analyze scripts in a way that I could break them down and really have a better understanding of them.
mm,
And I found that the more that I studied, the better that I got, the more prepared that I was.
mm.
It allowed me to feel more confidence
Yeah.
because without that, it just wouldn't have worked for me. And I'm not saying, look, yeah, there are probably a couple people in this world, actors who, just go on intuition and they have tremendous success. But that's so unusual. I mean, most
Mm,
most well-known working actors have studied for years, and there are a lot of famous actors who still study, and they'll hire a private coach, for a specific role. So, being unprepared is a great way for disaster and to feel horrible and to
mm,
go in and not have any confidence. And it's funny. A lot of times people say, well, that actor, he was just lucky. He happened to know somebody and you have to know somebody in the industry. See, I have a very different take on that. And I don't think it's who you know. I really think it's who knows you. And
yeah.
I think the more you get yourself out there and the more chances that you
Mm,
take, go out and try to market yourself. Go to meetings where fellow actors or screenwriters or filmmakers or directors are there and show up and network.
Mm,
learn from other people. And sometimes, and this is something that I'm doing on Instagram right now. So I do have, like every week, I will upload a video. It's a quick tip video, and I also have that on my YouTube channel. But
mm,
something I just started last week, and I'm going to continue doing it, it's posing a question and asking people, like, for instance, um, how do you find work as an actor? How do you find work on your own, even if you don't have an agent?
mm,
And I don't give an answer. I will just pose the question, and maybe I think in the future I might give out one idea, but the whole concept is let's build this community of fellow actors who come in and share information
mm-hmm.
and tell us. And I think that the more that we connect with others, and this also, I mean, all this stuff is so interrelated, not competing with anybody. I love to surround myself who are like-minded, who like
Mm,
helping each other. You need a reader for your particular audition because you always have to have a reader who can
yeah,
read the other lines with you. So let's get a community of
yeah,
actors who are going to do what we can to try to help somebody else out. And it's funny, sometimes people have said to me, well, Aaron, you do all these workshops, you do the private mentoring, you've got the actor career program, you're sharing all this information. Don't you ever get concerned that these people are going to get your information and then when they're going to do an audition, they're going to book the job because they have your knowledge, your experience. And once again, I never
mm,
really think of it that way. And I
no,
truly believe if the job is right for me and I am the perfect person for it, I'm going to get it.
yeah,
And if I'm not the perfect person and you are, then you're going to get it. And congratulations. Yeah, look, if there's a job, like I just auditioned for a national television commercial.
yeah,
And yeah, I wanted the job. I wish I had gotten it. But if I knew somebody who booked it, I would say congratulations. That's great. I
yeah,
wish it were me, but I'm glad you got it. I know it's going to make you happy,
yeah,
doing that particular job. So yeah, so if you are having self-doubts, get a mentor, study
yeah,
with people, take classes. But once again, you got to do it in a smart way. There
yeah,
are a lot of charlatans out there. There are a lot of people who charge a tremendous amount of money and are kind of clueless about the industry. So if you are going to take a class, see if you can audit a class.
mm,
Sit in and just see, are they teaching you what you want to learn? And probably just, or maybe even more importantly, do they teach in a style that
mm,
works for you? I remember walking out of a class that I had paid for because the teacher was very knowledgeable
yeah,
and was horrible. He was nasty. He was mean-spirited. He would try to break people down. He would make fun of people.
mm,
And I just thought, this is not a way I'm going to learn. And I don't want
mm,
to be around this. And so I'm very cognizant of that when I am doing mentoring with folks of, trying to do it in a way that I know I would like to be taught. So
yeah,
anyhow, getting the information and
yeah,
being incredibly skilled so that when opportunity happens, you're prepared.
yeah. So you've shared lots of advice to our listeners, and knowing that people do all this, can you share how you've stayed motivated when all the odds are against you time and time again?
Yeah, I guess, maybe in some ways it's a little bit of an addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty incredible experience that you're not going to find in many places when you walk onto a set and there are hundreds of
Mm,
people, crew members, other actors, extras, director, and you get a chance to play
mm,
and be, I'm not saying somebody else because any, at least my feeling is any character that you do, there's a piece of you in there as well. I mean, I
mm,
don't know how you completely divorce anything of yourself in there. Um, it could be very addicting.
yeah.
And so even when there are slow periods, and there will be, maybe there are some actors that have never had a slow period, but I can tell you I have. I'm sometimes I would go for weeks without an audition, and
Yeah.
and that happens for a whole variety of reasons. But it's so enjoyable, and to get a chance to learn from other people, to meet other people, to talk with other folks from different walks of life and different experiences. And those things, it can be very, very motivating. And the other thing for me is, even, whether it's doing the job or doing the audition, for me, it's also a way that I am continuing to learn new things and being able to share it with other folks. And so for me, yeah, of course I want, it'd be nice if I book the job, but that's okay if I don't, because I will learn something from that. And I know that that information will be very helpful to others.
Mm. No, that's great. And looking back, what's been the most rewarding part of staying true to your path?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think anybody ever asked me that one.
Mm,
Um, yeah, here's something that popped in my mind. It was always very hard for me to turn things down for
mm,
a whole variety of reasons. I used to go to this place of, well, if I say no to the agent, they're going to drop me. They're not going to call me anymore. They're going to be angry with me and all that stuff. And I, I've gotten a little bit better at saying no to things. Still
yeah.
not great, but I've gotten better. I have to say that. And my wife appreciates, especially we have a vacation planned. And oh, Nance, this job just came up. I'm going to have to meet you up there. So I've gotten much better with that.
Mm,
Um, but listen to yourself and be willing to say no for whatever reason. If
mm,
it's a commercial and it's a product you don't want to be associated with, you say no. If
mm,
it's a project and there's dialogue in there that you don't want to say, if you have to do something in a scene, if it goes against your morals or your beliefs or whatever it is, look, you can always ask if they can get a body double. You can always ask, will you change the lines for me? They probably won't, unless, you have a huge role in this thing.
mm.
But listen to yourself and never do something that you're going to regret
Yeah.
because you don't want to look back many years from now and just think, oh, I really wish I didn't do that. Because
Mhm.
whatever that thing is that you did, it could be there forever.
Yeah.
And as important as this work is for me, it's not the most important thing in my life. I mean, it's up there, but certainly my family is much more important to me than work, but also feeling good about what I do and feeling good about myself. And in fact, I'll even tell you one, and this was a few years ago, it was a political spot. And certainly would not get into politics here. And this really had nothing to do with regular politics. This person was, and I was a guy on the street who was supposed to be supporting this person. And this guy was saying how I love this politician because certain people shouldn't be allowed in Congress. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this is in the 2000s, and people are still talking this way. It was so unbelievable to me.
Mm,
And I just said, I don't want to do anything in my power to help get this person elected. And I don't want those words coming out of my mouth. It's one thing if you have a character and you're saying words that you
mm.
would never say. That's one, it's uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
the character, like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, he
Yeah.
really doesn't eat people. I saw
No.
him on a set once and he seemed like a very, very nice man. Didn't have a scene with him, but I saw him and he seemed very kind. But sometimes for commercials, it's a little bit different, but I
Mm,
just didn't want to do it. So please listen to yourself. Don't do anything that you're going to be embarrassed about or regret
yeah.
because life is too short for that.
Yeah. Wise words, wise words. So, Aaron, how do you define success now after 40 years in the business?
For me, it's always been the same thing.
Mm,
Um, Getting opportunities. That is success. And that's what I tell people too. It's not the booking that makes you successful. It's getting the audition. If you can get an
yeah.
audition, well, first of all, if you can get an agent, that is success because it's hard getting agents. And then if you actually start getting auditions, that is very successful. A lot of people don't realize. And once again, there are no specific numbers because it depends on the project and things like that. But
Mm,
it's not unusual, let's say for a film and it's a larger role, there could be 500, 1,000 headshots and resumes submitted by
mm,
various agents for a role. And if it comes down to maybe 30 people being granted an audition, that is success. You've already won. That means that your headshot is talking to the casting
mm,
directors in a positive way. Your resume is put in the right format. You've got the right information there. That is incredible.
yeah.
So for me, success is still getting the auditions and working when I can. But I'll tell you something else that I don't know if success or it just makes me feel good when I do work with people privately and they go out and they get an agent, they put together great materials, they start getting auditions, sometimes they start getting bookings. To me, that makes me feel so incredible because
Mm,
I know what it's like to get started
yeah.
without any information. I know what it's like to get started when you've got people telling you that you're crazy. You're going to be an actor. It doesn't make any sense. And the same thing even happened when I first started going to New York. So I live about, well, depending on how I get there, it could be 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. And I didn't feel like I was ready to hit the big market for about 4 years into my career. And I didn't want to start until I felt like I was ready. And there were a number of people who would tell me, Aaron, look, I don't want you to get your heart broken. Look, they have
Mm,
hundreds of thousands of actors who try to break into New York every year. You really think they need someone like you? You live near Washington, D.C. It's a small market. You really think I'm telling you, you're going to get your heart broken. Don't do it. And I listened to what they had to say. But something that I also learned is that you have to filter everything that
mm,
people say to you. And you hear it, take it in, filter it. And then what I learned was there were people, they weren't concerned about my cardiac situation. What they were feeling was they didn't have the courage to
mm,
try to break into New York, and they didn't want to see anybody else have success
mhm,
there. And I knew that I could live with not getting an agent in New York. I could live with not getting any work in New York. Wouldn't be happy. I could live with that. What
mm,
I couldn't live with was not trying it
yeah.
because I knew that every time I saw a feature film or a television show, I'd be thinking, I wonder if I could have done that. And I didn't want to live my life that way. I
Mm,
didn't want to have those nightmares. And so, yeah, just going out there, once again, being incredibly prepared, giving it your best shot, and then see what happens. But if you don't, it's just like for somebody who says, "Oh, I've always been interested in acting or modeling, but I couldn't do it before, and I don't know, now I'm probably too old." People will give you all kinds of reasons why
mm,
they don't do things in their life, and most of the time, it has nothing to do with what they're saying. And for a lot of people, they're too scared,
yeah.
whether it's rejection, whether it's the unknown, whether it's taking this gamble. And what I also see, at least with my private sessions, it's mostly women
Mm,
who sign up. And I find that women are braver than men. And a lot of the women who I work with are people who, and I hear the story a lot, you know, I was a mom. I took care of, the kids. I took care of the house. I was doing all these things for other people all my life. It's now time to do something for me. I've always been interested in acting or modeling. And once again, they're not trying to be a fashion model. They want to do commercial modeling. And those are the people who go out and will give it a shot and they get the right information. And so, like I was saying before, I love it when I see those people have success.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So you've shared lots of lived experience throughout your career. Is there a piece of advice that you wish you'd known 40 years ago?
Oh boy, there are a lot of things I wish I know. And a lot of those things are things that we talked about.
Yeah.
I wish I knew about the rejection of not taking it personally. I wish that I
Yeah.
knew of not being competitive with people.
Mm,
I wish I had a better understanding of how the industry works, which would have made it much easier. I wish I would have learned how to deal with nervousness, at the
mm,
beginning of my career, and even just audition techniques, which
mm.
I didn't know because how would I? I was
Yeah.
going to be a physical therapist and I was a musician. I didn't know any of this stuff. And learning some very specific techniques, it would have made things so much better for me.
Mm.
Whether it's TV commercials or commercial modeling or film and television. Um, Having those techniques down, I wish I had known those
Yeah.
things because it would have been much, much better.
Yeah, and it all comes back to being prepared, as you said before. It's yeah, techniques and being prepared for it. Hmm. So, Aaron, where can listeners follow your journey or learn more about your workshops?
Yeah, probably here's the best thing to do. Go to my website and I've got a couple of different domains that all point to the same place. This one might be the easiest. Just go to aaronrobertmarcus.com. It's just AARONROBERTMARCUS, aaronrobertmarcus.com. There's
Hmm.
another simple one, howtomodel.com, HOWTOMODEL.com. You can go there and you can sign up and you can be on my free email list. And every week I send out really helpful information. And if you do that, actually, I'll send you this. It's a great video. It's six ways of mastering home auditions, which every actor absolutely needs to know about. You get that free. But when you're there, you can also click on my YouTube
Yeah,
icon and it will take you to my channel. I have over 500 free quick tip videos. You should go there and subscribe, click the notification bell so you always know when I upload a new video. I try to do
yeah,
that once a week. And follow me on Instagram.
yeah.
And the icon is right there. It's just Aaron R. Marcus. And once again, it's AARON, R for Robert, MARCUS. Follow me there and you'll get some great videos. And if you have any questions after we're done, just go to the howtomodel.com and there's a contact tab. Click on that. Shoot me a question. And
Mm,
I'm more than happy to get back in touch with you.
mm,
And I will, if I don't know the answer to what you're asking, I'll let you know. I'm not going to make something up, but I'll do my best at trying to get your question answered.
mm. Well, thank you, Aaron, for sharing your wisdom with everyone. And I'm sure there's lots of listeners that will be looking your YouTube and tips up. You're just so very generous and kind to do that to your community and to the acting community. So, if someone today is listening and feels like giving up on their dream, what's the one thing you would tell them?
Well, listen to yourself. And you know what? Maybe it is time to give up. I don't know. It depends on the situation. Maybe in some ways you like the idea of doing something. You never really worked that hard at it. And maybe it is time to look
Mm,
for something else. However, if it is something you honestly and think about that hard, something you really do want to do, but you're ready to give up, then find some other people to mentor
mm,
with, to talk to get information with. See how you could potentially do things differently that will help you achieve the goals and whatever you're trying to do with whatever the industry is. But if your heart is saying yes, then continue with it. but
Mm,
make sure you do it in a smart way and not just throw money at things because you have to be great at what you're doing in order to have success.
mm. Well, Aaron, thank you for sharing not just your career highlights, but the real lessons that make your story so meaningful. You've shown us that rejection doesn't define us, fear doesn't have to stop us, and that confidence is built one choice at a time. So thank you, Aaron, for joining with us today.
Oh, and thank you for doing so many incredible things that are so helpful to other people throughout this world. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And to everyone listening, whether your dream is on stage, behind a desk, or in your own home, remember this. Your calling is worth pursuing. The world needs what only you can bring. This is Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis. Until next time, keep believing, keep showing up, and keep following your dreams. Sending you all love and positive vibes. Bye for now. And thank you again, Aaron. Thank you.